You look at me and my experiences of 30 years of working in bike shops. And yes, I came from a bike shop too. And I am the son of an owner of a bike shop, which goes to why are bike shop sons a-holes?
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with a guy. Hi, I'm Justin the Guy. Obviously, I have a garage shop. Take scary out of used, one bike at a time. If you want to be kept up to date on latest projects and topics, please like and subscribe.
Well, there's a lot of situations out there when you're a son of a business and you have a level of entitlement because you're family, right? And then you have a hostile work area because everybody thinks you're a jerk and you don't do your weight and you get paid more and you get the hours or whatever the case. So it's just not a win-win situation at all being a son of a bike shop owner or any owner of any business. But today we have a special guest, John Bradley. He's been in the industry for over 50 years-ish. And I'm sure he's not a son of a bike shop, but he has encountered quite a few bike shop sons in various environments. And one main question I want to start off with is, which one was the worst? Oh God, it's me, wasn't it?
I don't recall you being quite that way. Honestly, I'm being honest because part of it, I understand it, but part of it may be, we weren't directly working together typically. So I'm going to, it takes you a while to, for some people, they're in a hole right off the bat. But I didn't have that impression with you in your favor.
Oh.
But I definitely, it's interesting because the relationship between, you're trying to talk to the bike shop owner, and then here comes some rugrat, butting in and changing the subject or taking it, entirely different way. It's a challenging.
It's challenging. Yeah, I had a huge enlightenment, but I know I'm on that list because I don't know if you know this for sure, but when you went to Trek and you started your jazz line, you used the rotary phone to call my dad. I was dating us back in the 90s. I didn't have cell phone. Maybe it was like a wireless, whatever. And you asked him point blank, what colors should I be looking at to put on these new jazz bikes that we're coming out with? And, I don't think he gave you the answer right away. I think he said, let me think about it. I'll give you a call back or what have you. But he asked me, and a dipshit little kid like I in the 20s, didn't know a thing for anything. Just, I'm barely learning how to build bikes. Go, I think Huffy Colors would be good. And he relayed that to you, and that first year of jazz production was a lot of neon and Huffy style looking colors. Not to know that if it actually was translated to that, I don't know if you even remember that, but that was one of the conversations that my dad and I had back in Parker Bikes. And I'm sorry.
No,
because those bikes now, the faded neon is so ugly. If you've seen one, you're like, oh my goodness.
Well, actually, if you think about the time, because Huffy, sometimes they may not employ the sharpest bicycle, people from, performance or whatever, a higher quality level. But they do hire marketing people.
Oh, yeah.
And if you think about the timing for that, there was a lot of neon. There was neon clothing, cars, and it was kind of funny. It got so omnipresent. I remember seeing people saying, or seeing bumper stickers or whatever, friends don't let friends wear neon or something like that.
Well, they do that for like puffy bikes too, department store bikes.
I remember Tom, your dad, and I had such a good relationship. I felt like I could, he didn't BS. I mean, he got to the point pretty fast.
Yeah, he was a straight talker.
Yeah, so I knew I was going to get a pretty direct opinion from him. I mean, there were a number of people that, and as I started traveling around, I developed relationships with other shop owners that were, one, fun to deal with, good people, and just would give you the straight shot. But the neon thing was funny. One of the things that did remind me of, so neon is hard to paint.
Oh, I can imagine.
And I remember we had, I was in the Ideal bike factory in Taichung Harbor, Taiwan. And it was Easter Sunday, and I was out there. It was like blazing hot, and I was having to do QC, quality control, quality check, on a bunch of Jazz neon bikes out in the parking lot. And Casper, the friendly Bradley that I am, I ended up with a huge, horrendous sunburn.
So you're just as bright as the bikes.
But yeah, it was funny. And actually, one of the things, you remember all those that kind of spidery.
Yeah. The spider jobs.
So that actually, I had a couple of theories about how that happened, because if you look at how that was painted over, what we're talking about is, I'm trying to remember what we called it.
It's like a speckle of some sort.
Well, it was more of a, I'll go to my theory for how it started is that if you don't clean a spray paint gun, it starts to come out more of a line rather than a spray.
Sure.
And it sort of droops this web, kind of spider web stuff over the bikes. And I thought that might have been how it happened. But the cool thing about that is if you painted a neon bike, and if you painted it with that, it would actually hide the flaws.
Oh,
which led to
kind
a
of
lot
like
of
stucco.
Yes.
For popcorn ceilings.
Yes,
for bikes.
Which led to
Whoa.
that. But yeah, wow, that definitely. If you look back to the mid to late '80s,
oh yeah,
neon was huge.
Neon was huge. The speckling style paint job was not just Trek. It was just like I remember Schwinn had it, GT had it. I think I have a GT that has I just got from a Goodwill save and just kind of refurbished that later. But yeah, it was kind of interesting. But yeah, back to being a jerk.
Okay.
I do. I'm in the stage of my life where you do a little reflecting, and this part came to reflection a lot sooner. A few years back, I ended up working in a shop where they had the family dynamics with the son, and the son was not very engaging in the sense of, didn't really seem like he knew of business. He grew up in it. His parents, it's like he's the third generation, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And if you're seeing this, I do apologize. But the thing is, I was seeing myself in that role, and this cat would be like working, playing games on his iPad and just tooling around, not working, or giving good direction, or actually, driving the business and all that, because it really kind of rubbed me wrong because, and this is the fault of me, because our shop failed and I didn't want theirs too. And I was seeing, so it's kind of like trying to be the overbearing parent in a sense, or brother or whatever. And I'm like, I actually had a conversation with the parents separately.
Well, how'd that go?
Kind of okay. Just kind of give them direction, because I came from a bigger shop where I had multiple locations and so forth, and I had some experiences. I was just trying to help them kind of refocus, because when I went in there and I did some of the inventory, there's stuff. Some parts they were a good shop. They were really known for years in the location. But their back end was train wreck. And I helped them clean all that up. And in addition to, I was trying to clean up more things than I probably should have, like the direction of their son of being a little more effective in the bike shop they were in, and that kind of thing. So we didn't really hit it. I mean, we respect each other's positions, but it was kind of like ruffling feathers almost every day in a sense. I wasn't, but it was mainly because of me. I do admit it was me being a jerk of the son being observing another son, came full circle, and I came to reflection off of that, going, I could have handled that a lot better, honestly. And they're doing great. They're opening other stores, and it seems to be they're doing fine. I wish them well. They're a great family, and I think the son has kind of stepped out of his smoking in the back, not really a bike shop person, which I did smoke too when I was younger. So did my dad. But that was kind of like the '90s thing, and cigarettes were as bad for you until later. But anyway, it's nor here nor there. But that's where I've kind of got this idea of like, yeah, there's a lot of us jerk sons out there, and some are great. Of bike shop owners that have taken the reins and really been a business perspective and really opened up doors for the companies and so forth. But I've seen some, and this is one story I want to see if you remember, you can validate, is Bicycle Village back in the day.
Oh yeah.
You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Back in the day, Bicycle Village, original owner, they were a footprint of chain store in Front Range, Colorado. They had, what, 12, 15 stores?
It was interesting because they started out in Lakewood, and they got really big. In fact, Bicycle Village and Wheat Ridge had a huge kind of friendly rivalry.
Okay.
And then they started expanding. I remember they came to my old neighborhood in Denver, Park Hill, and they got into, you probably don't even remember Ross Bicycles, I'm sure you don't.
Oh, the Ross brand?
No, Ross, the family Ross.
Oh, no.
Clark Ross actually used to be a great road cyclist. When I got into road racing, he was like one of the guys in his Denver Wheelman white jersey with the red cross on it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they started to expand. They bought other stores around town, but they also opened some locations. They made some mistakes. I think they made some assumptions about, building a chain, but they got really big. I mean,
they got big. And I remember Chris Grandy, the truck rep at the time. He'd share some information as he goes in, and he's trying to like get them to buy bikes because that's his job. And it was like a team of buyers, and they just sit at a table, which was kind of an eye opener for me because coming from a little bike shop, you're working on a bike going, yeah, we'll take one of those, and you're still working. It's like, oh, you have somebody that's all they do is buy just bikes. That's their job. And you got a person that just buys helmets, and you got to talk as a rep. You have to talk to like 5 different people to do the full order. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, they got to be huge. And we traded bikes with them periodically, and we had a couple of our mechanics that went to work for them at a period of time, and hearing the stories of how they ran their business was very interesting. Very volume numbers, quick. Like their bike builds are like boom, 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 boom. They get paid per bike. One of the former mechanics came back and just showed us how they did it, and we're like, whoa, this is insane, like how fast they're working through things. But I was very shocked to hear that the owner didn't entrust his son to take over the company, so he sold it. Is that, if that's my memory, do you remember any kind of validation of that?
I don't recall that. I mean, I think I was probably living in Wisconsin by the time,
yeah, I think it was mid to late '90s when this change happened.
I mean, it was interesting because the owner, interesting guy. He and I had. It took me a while to kind of get to where he was more or less friendly to me. He and Gene Keefe were really good friends. Okay. Which was interesting because they were also,
very competitive. Yeah.
But kind of very different kind of vibe to the stores. But
oh yeah, absolutely.
There was a bit of that, because his son became like his number 2 for a while, and it was. I think it was a complicated relationship, between them and also from the employees to dealing with him. But I think that is, that happens in almost like every business or enterprise. And there's an old book about Schwinn, the fall of Schwinn, called No Hands, and they talk about the curse of the third generation. Is that the owner builds a business, works like a dog. A lot of times, the child will see, wow, he's working really hard. This means a lot. I'll do that. But then you get to the third generation, And all of a sudden, the wheels start to come off because they kind of have more of a sense of entitlement. Maybe they've gone to great schools, got all this money or whatever,
Yeah.
and don't, just think, well, this is how it is, not what it took to get there. And that is, you look at what happened to Schwinn. I mean, at one point, one of the vendors in China gave Eddie Schwinn a Chinese junk, which is those big wooden ships you see in like Hong Kong Harbor.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Eddie brought it back, and I think he had it on Lake Geneva.
Oh, yeah. Been to Lake Geneva.
Where the Schwinn Mansion used to be. I think that's where the location was. Either that or Lake Michigan. But it's like, what about the business? But I mean, at that point, Schwinn was just, if they hit something, they were just a money machine. Like, the Airdyne was amazing for Schwinn. So they were basically
heavy.
Well, they're still out there.
And they're still work.
You still see them show up on the sidelines of NFL games. As the guys are trying to warm up and stuff.
Oh, wow.
They're actually a pretty good machine.
Yeah, they were built to
anyway.
last. Anyway, yeah, sidebar.
Back, we digress as we often do. But that was a case of people. The owner, and a lot of times inherently understands what's going on. What it took to get there.
Yeah. How
to keep it going, all that type of thing. And sometimes it's the fault of God. Relationships are so difficult and complex, anyways. Is the owner expecting the kid to figure it out, or is he just is he helping them bring along and being understanding and not saying get your butt moving here, sweep the floor?
Well, yeah, parenting and working in a bike shop is for me is I mean, I can see the the diverse complications, especially if you're a very stern parent or what have you. I had a really great relationship with my father and my mom. They both worked at the shop, and I came in kind of later after they already opened the shop a couple of years. So it's kind of like I was the new guy, and there was probably a little bit of like, oh, the son's working here now, he's going to get all the hours and that kind of whatever. But my relationship with my parents changed for me. We became more co-worker friends,
kind of more of an adult
versus adults having fun and doing things versus your parent. And it's like they saw me grew over the years, which my dad helped me grow through that. And then he was leading on me as being the expert of certain things, which is for a parent, that's like the golden, you're finally you're smarter than me. That's great. Some parents don't like that. My dad did, but I can see where all those catches and hang-ups can happen. And not to say that the dynamics was perfect by any means, but it was a little more functional than some others. So off the top of your head, besides my shop and me being a jerk, you don't have to say the name of the shop, but it's like, is there at least one shop that you came across in your travels of either being a rep or what have you, going, and they failed because of that family collapse?
I don't recall that, and I remember, actually, one of the things I started thinking, kind of going back before that, is working at the Denver Spoke, which I did for a while, which was like one of the coolest stores in Denver at the time. It was like the pro shop. And
was Kramer the son?
Yes, Mike Kramer Jr.
Okay.
His father was a interesting character who owned a bunch of Arby's restaurants.
Yeah, you get a free Arby with every bike sale, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't think he did that, but
no. He didn't give anything away.
Oh no.
But Mike Jr. or whatever started working. It was a little weird, but to his credit, and like to yours, he kind of evolved beyond that. He kind of, I think, part of that is in that relationship, you figure out, well, what can I do well and how do I fit in? If you have that ability to reflect a little bit. And I think you did, and I think Mike Kramer did. He and Dong, oh my God.
Those are two peas in the pod.
They were thick as thieves. They were, you could write a book about that story.
Every time you walk into that shop with those two, it's just like watching a show in the cycling comedy section. I mean, it's just, it was just so funny. And you walk out and you'd be like reflecting on the conversation afterwards and just be snickering. Like, that's just so stupid and funny at the same time.
Yeah, it was a
but,
cool place.
Yeah. So what do you think is probably flip this to be one of the successful bike shops and also successful manufacturers you've seen with a family member taking the reins? Because we talked about Schwinn crashing, train wreck. There's Bicycle Village that had, he sold to the Gart brothers. So that used to be Gart Sports. Mm-hmm. I think that was the first sale of that.
Yep.
And now we're owned by Vail Sports and shrunken down to like 2 stores. But in any case, what would be like the bike shop, the best success story? Of a family member taking over.
There's a store called Bingham's on the Wasatch Front along the banks of the Salt Lake City, or Salt Lake, the Great Salt Lake.
Okay.
And great family. They bought a lot of stuff from me and Trek and all that, but just well run, good business.
So this was Skyler?
Yeah.
Was he the son?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the sons. I mean, it was a big family.
Oh, the big family. Oh, that's Utah. No,
yes.
Not to imply, but
no, but
it's pretty common in Utah.
Interesting thing to me going over to Utah, just in terms of that demographic differences, I grew up in bike shops, and we used to have really cool kids' bikes at the Big Wheel. Like, we had these mini Libertas, like, road bikes. They were derailleurs and stuff like that, but we hardly sold any of them. There just never was a big kids' bike market.
Oh, gotcha.
People would always go, I mean, Sears, and this shows how dated I am, but Sears at one point when I was a kid was the largest bicycle retailer in the United States, and that's where I think a lot of people went to buy their kids' tricycle, bicycle.
Oh, wow. Yeah. About
that. But so I go over to, I get the Trek rep job, and all of a sudden I'm traveling. So my territory was Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, New Mexico, and western Nebraska. And so I go over to, I'd never been to Utah before. Might have stepped over the line at Four Corners when I was going to the College of Durango, but I go to Utah, and all of a sudden there were like kids all over the place, and Christmas was a big kids' bike. I mean, it was really dramatic, how that happened. Anyway, but the Bingham family was, a really good family, and Glenn Adams worked there. You remember Glenn Adams? He worked for Specialized for years in Utah after worked at the store and then he was a mountain bike racer. He was nationally ranked at one point cross country.
Okay.
Yeah. And he worked for Specialized when I'm not sure they still have a facility in Utah. But anyway, he was out of that store. I would say one of the really good successes is Wheel and Sprocket in Milwaukee.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the Kegels are. I mean.
Yeah, I actually have firsthand experience with working with
Joel and the daughter.
Oh.
Starts with an A.
I'm John.
I'm doing a John Bradley.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank, but yeah, the Kegel family has been. I worked for them through Retail Toolkit.
Yep.
Because Noel, the son, he came up with this program for his dad to. Amelia, yeah. And there's another Tess.
Didn't know her.
Tessa. There's 2 daughters, I believe, and Noel came up with this software program that he was developing for management, inventory management, and you go to the P2 groups and all the others, including Archie at Lee Cycler, like, I want that. And we were like one of the few first shops to get that program integrated with Ascend. And I did such a good job of inventory managing and all that. They're like, when I moved, they're like, hey, you want to do this? Like a part-time gig of helping other shops. So yeah, I had, they've been to a couple of their shops, beautiful stores, great family.
Yep.
Everybody seems like they're being taken care of and treated very well as a family business, and taking over the reins when his father passed away. They've had a lot of successes. They're working even through all this crazy up and downs. They're a very solid bike shop, and I would say that was probably one of the ones I've been affected by or seen being a very successful transition of power to the children. And they work pretty well with each other. I went to a show or two with them, and they're a family. The sisters would bicker a little bit, and Noah would bicker a little bit. But it was like all kind of lighthearted kind of thing. And it's not like seriously you're destroying our business kind of conversation. But they knew their roles and that kind of thing, and they worked towards it. But going back to Bingham Cycles, which has been sold. To a lady that was part of Retail Toolkit, client base, and I know her very well. And she's doing pretty well with she's keeping that traditional family feel, and also more diverse customer base, bringing in, which is not such, male dominant. It's more diverse, which is great. I love seeing that because it's one of those things where you just need to be a little, it's opportunities there. So she was a lot of fun to work with over the years too. So that's two great ones. I actually have direct connections with.
Yeah,
so
and then
cool.
also Wheat Ridge.
Wheat Ridge,
which Ron Kiefel came out of there. I think Ron worked in the store a bit, but he was at that point he was gone and off to his pro racing career when I was a Trek rep. But then Leona came up through there, and Leona actually succeeded me as the Trek rep for the Rockies.
Yep, I remember talking to her. Great gal.
She did great. And it's although unfortunately we were at Gene's funeral, Gene Kiefel's funeral this spring, and they were telling stories, and I think it was Gil, Leona's husband.
Oh yeah,
was telling a story about how Gene was going to try and move away from the business a little bit. He wanted, Gil and Leona to kind of run things a little bit more. And he says, "Oh, we're going to have a store meeting." And one of the things they never really had store meetings. It's always like, there's something to do: sweep the floor, clean up, do this, do that.
There's never a sit down.
Very, very tightly run ship at Wheat Ridge, and so they're having this meeting, and it starts, and Gene walks in. What's going on here? And boom, meeting's over. Get back to work. Sweep the floor. So maybe that's one of these kind of like where the kid comes and says, "Yeah, we can do this. It'll be great." And then the parent comes, "No, that's not how we built the business. Let's do it the way we did." But it was kind of funny. I think that's a great one. I'm trying to think. I almost kind of wonder as you say this. I almost wonder sometimes with running a bike shop. It can be great, but super stressful, as you well know.
Oh yeah.
The peril. There's a lot of peril in any retail business, particularly these days. And I almost wonder if, no, little fellow, go do something else. Go study. I don't care, philosophy. It'll be better than the bike business.
Yeah.
So
my best suggestion if you're thinking about opening a bike shop, don't.
Yeah.
Unless you want to throw away a lot of time and money.
Yeah.
You're not going to get rich at it. It's fun, but it is very challenging.
But businesses, I think that have succeeded. Trek, obviously.
Yeah.
There's been, we all know John Burke. He's famous. In fact, writing books. I think he's got presidential ambitions at this point. Honestly. Seriously.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, he actually, I have a political science degree, and John and I love history and stuff like that. And John and I used to have great discussions about various, history or topics. In fact, he used to refer to me as Omar, as in Omar Bradley, the World War, one of the number 2 generals in World War II.
Oh, okay.
That's what the Bradley fighting vehicle is named after. So his nickname for me was, and probably is in his mind, is Omar. But that's. Dick Burke was a really interesting guy, very, very intelligent, successful businessman before he had the money to start Trek, obviously, with Bevel Hogg. But he and John were a great team. Yeah. And I'm sure John thinks of him every day. I think of Dick a fair amount. I particularly remember the one time he came into my office, and he kind of circled, and I'm working at my desk like this, and I comes around and I feel and he was emphasizing my loss of hair.
Noticing your shiner.
Which is like, You know, a variety of a catalog of expletives popped up into my mind, but I was like, this is blankety blank Dick Burke. I can't say boo.
Yeah, you're a funny guy.
So funny. But
Yeah.
anyway, that is a another thing. I remember um, when I was working for Orbea. At that point, Orbea USA was a privately held, non-owned by Orbea company. Tony Karklins had started it, and
Hmm.
he was also the importer for Casati. And one of the really cool experiences of my life is we got to visit the Casati factory, workshop. It was pretty cool experience. And they're building these beautiful bikes, and I got along great with Gianni Casati, who was the son of the founder of Casati Bicycles.
Okay.
And he was like, oh, I remember him grabbed me one time at Milan, the Milan trade show. He was, oh, look at this. And he had found the guy who used to do the leather wrap on Chinelli handlebars. And so he was reproducing that, kind of evoking
Oh wow.
that. But
Huh.
they had, and he had, there was a great relationship there. His son was taking up the business, had just married the daughter of the painter for Casati, who looked like Gina Lollobrigida. I mean, absolutely gorgeous.
Nice.
Probably a reference that doesn't mean a lot to a lot of you out there, but she was gorgeous. Italian movie star.
Okay.
But it can be done. I think any boss-employee relationship is challenging.
Yep.
And then you add that family dynamic on top of it. But the
Yeah.
Burks did well. I mean, I worked with, Mary Burke, who ran for governor of Wisconsin not long ago, um, and God, there are two of the other daughters. And they'll wring my neck, and then I can't bring them up. But it's been a while. But just
Interesting.
a interesting, very amazing American family. Great success story.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
But that's at the bike level. But by the time I became aware of who was running Schwinn, it was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Some really smart people there, but I don't think they really understood what they had and the perils of where they were at.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, well, I would say pretty confidently that most siblings of owners of bike shops have always been perceived to be jerks at some level, at some point. Even though, I mean, like Noel's a super nice guy, but he has a level of professionalism, and he knows what he wants. I mean, he's so direct,
yeah.
which kind of can, being direct kind of can be perceived as like, oh man, you're kind of being like bullish and jerkish about things, but he really wasn't. It's like he's very focused, and looking at knowing other sons of other shops or siblings, and it's a spectrum. Some are just like, okay, you are kind of
Mm-hmm.
really just kind of just hanging out and not really doing anything because your parents have the shop and whatever. But it's interesting to hear about John Burke is in a lot of circles. He's very popular.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a couple meetings with him, and he has an air to him. It's kind of like, like he commands the room
Yeah.
in a sense.
Yeah.
And that could be definitely perceived as being mean, or I wouldn't say entitled, because he built his. I mean, he built it up, and good for him. But he does have this perception, and a lot of people within the industry, that he's kind of like, and he owns the position. He owns up to it, and that's fine too.
I think sometimes to run a big organization, whether it's a shop or a bicycle company or a car company or whatever, you have to
play that role.
Well, yeah, you have to assume leadership. I mean, it's always kind of funny as we're in the midst of a presidential election. One of the things, although nobody's saying anything about it right now, is like, I'd like that guy. I like that guy. I go out and have a beer with him, and I always thought I could care less about being friends with him. I just want to do a good job of running the country. And I think if you're an employee or a customer of a business, you want it to be a well-run business.
Yeah.
And I think
Well,
and also I think success breeds confidence, and sometimes depending on who it is, that can be overconfident or bullish or whatever you want to say. Or you just, if you haven't been around somebody, I mean, my personal experience, I mean, I've been on all sides of John Burke's emotions. I've pissed him off, which was valid a few times. But we remained friends. We had a great conversation at Gene's memorial, Gene Kiefel's memorial, and he got up and gave one of the best talks about who Gene was, and kind of his impact on the industry and stuff like that. I mean, super intelligent. Not everybody gets along with everybody. You don't have to like everybody.
No, absolutely not.
They're doing a lot of things that, in the industry, like the recent direct to consumer sales, and
we'll talk about that here in a minute.
Which is riling a lot of people, but he's doing what he sees as his best for the business. So we'll talk more about that. But it's interesting that the family dynamic in bike shops. Mine. I was thinking a little bit about Milt and his son Mike, and my initial thing with both those guys, they both were kind of had an edge to them. It was like which was really interesting to me because I got along with just about everybody, and it took a little while, but actually we became friends with both Milt and Mike. They both had their qualities. I mean, God, Milt built a retail empire with Denver. Mm-hmm. He was, both he and Gene Kiefel was like buy low, sell high. They loved closeouts. It was kind of funny because I think that's one of the problems of the bike business is people don't necessarily see the opportunity. They're like, oh, I don't want that dog of a bike. It didn't sell, even though you just dropped the price like 40% or something crazy like that. But Gene and Milt took advantage, as did a number of the other dealers throughout the territory. I think the Kegels were great at that as well.
Interesting. So you had two family dynamics competing against each other in the 90s very aggressively.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not far apart. I mean, those two stores were maybe 5 miles apart. Maybe.
Yeah. Exactly.
Pretty close. Yeah.
Anyway, there's that family dynamics. And why, bike shop owners' sons are jerks.
Not all the time. Not all
the time, but we're perceived as jerks, and we just take that role on.
And he's proud of it.
Just own it. Just own it. You are what you are, and go with it. But thanks for hanging out with me in the garage. I hope you got some insights on this interesting, bizarro topic. I figured I'd give some enlightenment of my enlightenments. And anyway, it's nice in your neck of woods. Please go for a ride. Until next time, from the garage, have a great day.
Have fun. Ride your bike.
Yeah, ride your bike. That's funny.
Yeah. You did surprise me.
Yeah, I wanted to.
Honestly, I didn't remember